Alright, let's play with credit cards here. Carly owns a credit card with a 16.99% APR, and she carries a $500 balance. Now, each month the minimum payment will be 5% of her balance, or $20, whichever is more. If Carly can only make the minimum payment each month, how much will she owe at the end of the third month, which would be the beginning of the fourth month? Okay, so now let's talk about first how to find the finance charge. So recall that the finance charge this is monthly. And so we've got to deal with our APR, but remember the A stands for annual. So the first thing we want to do is take our percent, and we're going to change it to a decimal, so 0.1699. And that's annual, so we want to make it monthly. We make it monthly by dividing by 12. So when we take 0.1699 divided by 12, and then we multiply that by your balance. How much are you carrying forward? Because the balance will determine how much your finance charge, right? The larger your balance, the larger your finance charge, and hopefully that makes sense logically. So when I take 0.1699 divided by 12 and then I multiply by 500, I get a finance charge of $7.08. So to find my new balance, well, if I carried over 500 and I'm going to add to that the finance charge, my new balance is 507.08, right? So I just added these two columns together. Now you recall that the problem says your minimum payment is 5% of your balance or $20, whichever is greater. So if I take my balance, 507.08, and I multiply by 0.05, because I got to figure that out first. Is that bigger than $20? I don't know. So when I take 507.08 multiplied by 0.05, I end up with 25.35. Now, that is more than 20, so I know my minimum payment is going to be $25.35. All right, so you owed 507.08. So I owed 507.08. I paid $25.35, right? And when you pay it, that makes your balance go down. So that gives me a balance carried over to the next month of $481.73. And now we do it again. So I would recommend hitting pause, try to go through this process again, and then come back and I'll talk you through it. So, okay. So we have our balance. We've got our $481.73, and I'm going to multiply that by the 0.1699 divided by 12. Don't forget your APR has to be divided by 12. When I do that, I get a finance charge of 6.82. Now, it should make sense that the finance charge is less this second month because you have a smaller balance. And remember, it's all about, the bigger your balance, the bigger your finance charge. So now I take my 481.73 and I add to that the finance charge of 6.82. And that gives me a new balance of 488.55. Well, I take that 488.55 and I multiply by 0.05. When I do that, I get 24.43. So again, my 5% of my balance is bigger than the $20. Okay, so keep going. My balance was 488.55, right? That was my new balance. I paid 24.43, so my carryover for the next month, 464.12. I take that 464.12 and now I got to multiply by my APR, make it an monthly percentage rate, so divide by 12. I do that, I get a finance charge of $657. Okay, so now we're going to add our balance. I get a new color here. We take our balance, 464.12. We add our finance charge of $657, and I have a new balance of 470.69. I take that 470.69 and multiply by 0.05, still bigger than 20, so 23.53 is my minimum payment. So if I owed 470.69 and I paid 23.53, at the end of 3 months or the beginning of 4 months, I'm going to owe, that's a bad color, let's change this to blue, I'm going to owe $447.16. And that's the depressing life of credit cards. You should always pay more than the minimum payment, as much as you possibly can, because the finance charges will eat you alive, and it'll take you forever to pay off your card. Okay, there you go.